back in it with another Berserkin episode. Welcome to Berserkin. Gone Berserk.
The Berserkin show. We're berserking it up, just like
I'm
always.
John Berserk. Yeah.
Paul Berserk and Nathan Berserk. We're here with episode 37 of the Berserkin show.
Volume 37.
Going Berserk, right?
Going Berserk. That's it. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm
you're
excited.
Right. It's volume 37. Mira is 37th. Our 34th episode. So,
yep.
Yeah, written in 2013. This was only 10 years ago this happened.
10 years.
Yeah.
2013. What was that? Dark Souls 2 was out, right? When was Bloodborne? Was that 13?
Bloodborne was 2015.
15?
2015,
Okay.
I think. Yeah. I saw posters for it when I was in Japan. And I was just like, what is that? And then it's like, oh, it's the new hotness. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh,
I wouldn't play it for many years after that, but it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Not a lot of similarities to the creatures we're seeing in this one. I don't think there's a lot of Bloodborne in here. But you know, that's okay. It's
when we last left off, we left off on kind of a cliffhanger with the
sea god.
What are they? The Marrow. The Marrow, like, are attacking the sea god or whatever. And I think, didn't Isidro say, like, to the captain, like, yo, like, turn the ship into that monster. Like, we got to go fight or no balls or something. Like, he was, like, berating him. Like, we got to go fight the thing or whatever. They're like, all right, let's go fight a sea god, I guess.
And that's what they're doing. And meanwhile, our guy Guts is inside the sea monster, but he's having trouble with its auditory attack of sorts. It's just so loud in there. He can't handle it.
Heart? Is that what it is?
It's the sea god's heart is so cacophonously loud that it's like overwhelming Guts' senses, and he can't make sense of anything. Like his environment is all lit up or something to him, and he can't distinguish anything. So he's just kind of paralyzed in there. But the Murrow have a singing ability. they sing to fight, I guess. And yeah, you just get a whole fleet of Murrow just with their mouths open and like audio waves or something. And this is able to just annoy the sea god and kind of negate its resonance or something. I don't know. It sort of cancels out the sound.
They're like putting it to sleep, or they're calming it, I think, right? Because that's also why the heart, like, so the heart is racing, which is making it harder for Guts to move. And I think that's kind of the predicament he's in, is that as like he's murdering it from the inside, obviously it's waking up and it's like beating more, and like it's just
getting more anxious, I guess, too, about like its imminent danger or whatever. So it's freaking out.
I think they like put it to sleep, or at least calm it down, which gives Guts enough like leeway
Shirka's
to kind of
thinking out loud about it or whatever. She's kind of like, oh, dude, this is our chance. Like we can't. It's been silenced. We need to go right now. But okay, sorry. Before we get to that, Isma is trying out her fancy new swimming abilities. And she gets herself in a little bit of trouble with the tentacles and the maw of this thing or whatever. And somebody swoops in and grabs her, and it's her mom. And it's just this cute little moment underwater where they reunite, and it's just a nice happy moment for some characters in the world of Berserk, which doesn't happen very much. So
like ever.
Really just sit with that for a minute.
Yeah.
It's a happy little moment, and nothing bad happens even. It's crazy, you know? Maybe Mira in his old age like lost his edgelordness a little bit.
Softening up a bit.
Was able to just have a fun bit of business happen without any dark twist or anything. It's like, it's my mom and she's evil or something. It's like, no, it's fine. Everybody's happy. But yes, they join in the chorus or whatever of singing and in this attack, and are able to silence it. Guts is kind of being guided by Shirka. He can't even really see right now.
He's like blind or something, right? Like he's fucked completely.
All of his senses are totally fried right now. But Shirka's kind of like, all right, it's 5 steps forward. Just get going. All right, now. And then he slashes out And I think we just kind of cut away, but it's like, oh, we did it. Like, look, the god is collapsing or whatever. Meanwhile, the ship was circling it and shooting at it and whatever it was able to contribute to the fight. Circular bombardment, they say at one point, because it's caught in a whirlpool or something. It's like World's End, but like way better.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely that. Yeah. That scene was pretty dope though, in that movie too. It's pretty good.
Once it dies, I guess it kind of blowholes out a bunch of ships. Like, it just starts vomiting up ships.
Oh, yeah, cool. I guess. yeah, you're right.
Isidro has a really goofy line about it. He says, like, puke bomb and raid, grody. That's like a read on this situation. It's like, all right, thanks, Isidro. I think they're also like, is this some sort of attack? And it's just like, no, I think it's dead. Like, that was its last gasp or whatever.
Because it like collapses too, like a dead jellyfish or something. Like the inside collapses down or something.
Yeah, it even more so looks like Monstro or something for a bit here. You just get giant razor teeth and like this giant bulbous head, but it's just kind of a dome of flesh or whatever. And then, there's an overhead shot of like the echoes and the song or whatever kind of radiating over it and like pulsing over it and stuff. It's like, okay, crazy. Tons of Muro too. You just get a whole bunch of them like belting it out.
But they're all women, right? They're all female.
I didn't see any mer dudes at all.
I actually looked and I didn't see any. Yeah, because I was curious. Like, oh, what does a merman look like in this world? And they don't exist. So
they don't exist. Like maybe it's like the lionesses or the badasses, right? They're out there fighting the war, and there's just a fat merman somewhere. It's like the Zora. There's just like this tubby Zora dude somewhere just sitting on an island.
Sure.
Like, where is everybody? Where's my dinner? It's like, no, they're off fighting the war. All right. The patriarchy. Probably.
Of course, yeah.
But who knows? So something kind of badass goes on here where, like, I thought that was such a cool, like, this, if Guts had died here, it would be the dopest way. It's just like, oh yeah, he drowned in a monster's blood. Like, the monster he killed, he got killed by the blood. There was too much blood in there because he was right in the heart of a giant beast. And Shirka gets like thrown off, like her luminous form like gets flooded out or something when this happens. And she wakes up kind of terrified that Guts is going to drown. So they kind of mount this rescue operation as best they can. And the captain like heads inside with like a torch. Isidro's there. And they survey the scene, but pretty soon the whole thing starts sinking, I think, right? Like, it's like, uh-oh, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, the corpse is falling into the sea, basically.
Yeah. So it's down to the Muro, I guess. They just have to trust the Muro to figure this out. They're kind of using sonar positioning or something to try to figure out where he is.
This part gave me anxiety because I have, like, claustrophobic problems or whatever. So I don't like the idea of, like, being deep. I don't like the idea of space at all, or like being deep in the sea where like there's no more light or any of that shit. I hate that shit. There is literally a bunch of panels of Guts just existing in pure blackness because he's surrounded by blood and water or whatever. Like, he can't see anything, and that is the fucking worst. It sucks so bad. It's like, oh, this is the worst. But
he kind of hits his head on the interior of the beast too. It makes a sound. It's like SQLCH or something. I was like, oh,
and he's
great.
Like saying like, am I dead or something? And then he's like, no, I'm not dead because it smells in here or some shit. It's really dumb.
But there, meanwhile, like every time you cut back to the ship, like Casca and this little kid, like the little elfish kid, are just kind of staring at each other, and his eyes are super big and everything. Yeah. And he kind of, there's a close up of him right before like cutting back into Guts' situation. So it's like, oh, okay. So he does his magic luminous glowing ethereal form thing, and that entity kind of guides Guts up and where to cut and how to start working out of there.
Right.
And like, I think he does a slash at one point, and it's even worse. Like, more blood and stuff starts coming in.
No, water starts coming in because he cuts. Yeah,
that's when that's the breakthrough where it's like, oh, good, it's water, hooray! And then a bunch of arms come in, and it's the Murrow kind of ferrying him up to the surface.
That's a dope picture.
And it's pretty great, yeah. Because that armor looks heavy, so he would drown anyway.
Yeah.
So there's nothing he can do. So yeah, he just requires their assistance. And there's a great shot of Shirko looking extremely relieved and happy on the ship side also as soon as he breaks the surface. There's everybody, but she stood out as just gleaming a little bit. That's just
She's had that look a couple times. I like it every time. It's like a smiling grimace or something. Like, it's really good. She has some good expressions in this.
So Guts is saved, and I guess that's kind of the end of this tale, isn't it?
Of that side quest, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, where does this other business come in? Oh, yeah, okay. So that night, the elf boy disappears. Like, he's just gone.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's kind of like, what? Like, how would he even go overboard or anything? We're surrounded by Murrow. And yeah, there's a pretty great shot of the ship kind of sailing, like, ferried by, like, dozens of mer people.
Yeah.
Just nature in harmony or something. They talk to Isma's mom as well. It's just like, hey, thanks for helping us fight that thing. Great job. Isma's back on the deck of the ship, though. She's too embarrassed.
She has legs again. Yeah.
Yeah. She can transform back, I guess. And she'd rather ride up there with the crew instead because she's a new mermaid. It's embarrassing. Something.
I guess. Yeah, I didn't understand what she's embarrassed about, but yeah, fair enough.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I wrote a note about Puck looking weird, but I wasn't sure when this happens. Like, Shirka is teaching Farnese kind of a healing spell or something to help Guts get back together. And it's like, oh, you're kind of channeling your odd and to, like, meet with his odd and help it out or something. And, like, there's just, like, Puck needs energy or something. Like, he's just there looking all weird and, like, emaciated. And I don't know why. There's like 2 Puck jokes in short order. One is that where he looks like he's like ghastly and wasting away. And then there's Natural Born Neat where he's like pudged out for some reason. Puck being silly. I don't know. He's just on the border of being weird. But they're healing Guts and it works out. But yes, then we get to the kind of speculation about the little elf kid guy and what his deal is, which sort of nails down like some possibilities, but we still don't have a name. We still don't really know what his deal is. He just appears during full moons apparently and is magical. Perhaps the very embodiment of the Flower Storm Monarch. No explanation really. Shirka just says that and I went and then they move on.
The manifestation of the king elf himself.
Of Elfhelm or whatever. Elfheim.
I can't remember his name, it's like, but yeah.
Oh, they might be guiding us to Elfheim.
The Elf Island
emissary.
King. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a possibility that that's what it is. And then Guts in the great distance sees the little guy standing on like a moonbeam or something. Like, or the wind or whatever. You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, weird. There's like branches over the moon and it's it's like currents or something, and he's just standing in space kind of and then goes into space. It's like cosmic.
It reminds me of I think Ragnarok did this in some spots, God of War Ragnarok, but have you ever played Valheim, that game that came out kind of recently? It's like a building Nordic game, like a survival game.
No.
Is it Valheim I'm thinking of? There's a game where if you're just like doing stuff around and you like look up at the sky, you'll see like the world tree branches just like cross it in some spots or whatever because you're part of the world tree or whatever. It's like that, basically.
Okay.
I think even Elden Ring might do some shit like that with like the Erd tree type areas. I can't remember, but like it seems like a very Nordic inspired thing, or maybe this inspired those games to do it or something. Like it's just kind of cool.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah. But yeah, still mysterious, and Casca is the one that kind of was weirding out when he disappeared. That's their clue that he's missing. But yeah.
Right.
And then that's kind of, this felt like the conclusion of a story or something here. Like we kind of cut into
like the epilogue.
A totally different bit of business.
Yeah.
like a flashback to Guts as a young mercenary again, which was kind of
This was weird. This was super whiplashy to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, here's some more backstory, I guess. Like, here's a little episode for you, and there's some neat things in it. But yeah, he's like chained up as part of a chain gang. He's hurt, keeps falling over, and this guy Martino seems to be helping him out, but kind of pulls a little stunt here. But he's like this older guy who's kind of like encouraging, and it's kind of creeping Guts out a little bit. It's like, hey, whoa, don't touch me, leave me alone. I was like, no, you're really hurt. You need to get out of here. Here, let me help you. And then he like unlocks his cuffs or whatever, and it's like, hey, this is your best opportunity to get out of here. Like, you're gonna die if you have to be subjected to hard labor. You should just run down this cliff and get out of here. And then Guts is like, all right, well, great. And he runs off. Amelia gets like shot down by arrows, and this guy was using him as just the distraction so he could escape. He even lied and said like, yeah, there's no way I can unlock these. Like, I can't do it. So this is all on you. And it's like, all right, well, I owe you one. I'll see you later. It's like, you're about to pay me back right now. It's like, what? Why is this guy being weird? And then that's why. It was so he could escape.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Guts gets gunned down, I guess, with a couple arrows, and is hauled into prison. And this weird little episode starts up with this little fairy that lives in a flower, and it's really weird.
Right.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's this little
really
little
sad
creature
in its own way.
There's a bitter, melancholic thing going on with this a little bit, but there's a whisper of maybe this will work out, Right. But there's this little creature named Chich, who is the spirit of this flower that's growing in this prison. And he is scheduled to basically die the next day in a sort of stunt fight with this Viscount's son. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, I need to bolster my son's confidence before he goes into battle. So we're just going to kind of stage this fight to the death tomorrow. And
like a gladiator type situation, if you've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But Guts is like so beat down that it's just like, oh yeah, he'll die. Like, this is easy. But over the night, like, he sees this little fairy, and this fairy, key part that I kind of missed initially even, I thought it was just, dark, atmospheric stuff or whatever. There's a rat there, and he bites it. He kills it, and I thought it was just like, oh, Guts is so hardcore, he's gonna eat this raw rat to rehabilitate himself or whatever. But it works out because that rat was threatening this flower, and because he saved the flower, this fairy appears and tries to help him. It's just like, hey, you stopped that rat from destroying all my leaves and stuff. This is great. I'm gonna help you out, Popo, or whatever. There's a lot of saying Popo. And I guess we've kind of been introduced to, like, Puck has healing powder or whatever. This thing can't quite do that, but she's using the leaves of the flower and magic, I guess, to kind of warm and heal up his wounds a little bit.
Sure,
which is key because he was down and out, like, if he had to fight the next day in his condition, he would be toast. So his fever breaks, he starts rehabilitating, but then when he wakes up, it's like, oh no, that wasn't a dream, but that silly fairy used all of the leaves of this flower to help me.
To heal him. So
now it's withered, and, like, I don't know. And in their exchange, when he's all, like, fever dream and everything, he's like, hey, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to get your flower, and I'm going to bring it up to this hillside with all these other flowers, and you'll be great. And Chich is stoked. Chich feels so Popo right there.
I love that the reason why her name is Chich is because that's what the sound the rat made. So
that's what the rat called it?
Yeah, because the rat's like ch or something, like it makes a rat sound. So she figured it's like, that's my name, I guess. It's Chich.
I'm Chich. I feel pretty Popo. Yeah, it's a fun little means of speaking. Not its first language or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it helps too much. Its heart is too big, like
Yep.
gave too much of itself to help Guts out.
Yep.
But he remembers his promise, and the next morning he's scheduled for his fight. He at least plucks what remains of the flower and puts it in his shirt. So we have hopes that this will work out somehow. And then he goes up against this like heavily armored kind of big guy with a crappy sword. Can't even cut a watermelon, they say.
Did we see this guy in the Golden Age? Because this armor is extremely familiar.
I feel like we've seen if not this exact guy, and this is like a recontextualizing of this moment where it's like, oh, by the way, like Guts had this flower situation going on in his background, and he was fighting for Papa or whatever, for Chich, instead of just himself in this moment. It's like, that's weird, but okay. Yeah, I don't know.
This
Very
is when they
familiar
liberate
looking
him,
guy,
right? Like, this is Gambino and them. Yeah.
It's like more detail into that chapter, I guess. And like this other mercenary, Martino, was there. And he keeps kind of visualizing Gambino's like pep talks and stuff when he's trying to get like readied up for this battle. And kind of, he gets some good stabs in and stuff, but it doesn't matter because he's so armored that it's like, it's not even piercing or whatever. So it's like, crap, what do I have to do here? And then it's like, you could use your sword in other ways or something. Like there's this vision of this instruction he had received. So he does this weird thing where he like stabs his sword up the glove or the gauntlet of this guy and then hooks his eye with the hilt,
Oh, sure, yeah. I can't remember what the move was, but he like grabs the sword by the blade and then uses the hilt, that cross beam or whatever, the guard, I guess, to stab him.
Weird use of like, you wielding it backwards in a way to get some damage in. But yes, he punctures this guy's eye. The Count or whatever is freaking out because his son's in danger. This was not supposed to be a real fight. This is just a nothing. And he instead, kind of grabs him by the throat and has the blade up near his throat. And he's like, all right, you got to get me out of here. Like, give me a horse and I'm going to leave or I'll kill him. Like hostage situation style. Yeah. And he's backing up and then the flower blows loose from his shirt. And he goes, no, and kind of changes his position to reach out for it just as like a guard got jittery and like fired his crossbow.
Like a sniper shot or something. Yeah.
It hits the son right in the back, and the Count's like, oh, no, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. And then suddenly the gates break open, and they're under attack from the Hawk or whatever, like the mercenaries, I guess.
The mercenary group.
It's not the band of the Hawk yet.
Yeah.
And Martino is there, and it's kind of like, hey, I ended up saving you, so no hard feelings, right? And he's like, I guess. He's pretty upset about it. And then there's a bit that I wish was just a little bit different, where he does go out to the flower field, but he doesn't plant it. He just kind of throws it and says, hopefully this works out. And it's just like, damn it, I just kind of wish you gave that flower as much of a chance as you could manage. He just kind of trusts it to the other fairies that may or may not be there to take care of it. Like, it was just like, man, I wish this ended with just him patting it into some soil and being like, I don't know. There's low odds that this thing is able to rehabilitate with no leaves, but hopefully, I don't need a shot of Chich there and it's all great because this is a dark fantasy universe, but just a little more effort on Guts' part would have gone a long way. I don't know. That was where I got irritated a little bit because otherwise it's the sweet little story, but yeah.
This is just retrospectively like putting in another elf that maybe we'll meet in Elf Island, right? Like Chich obviously was put in for a reason.
I guess so. It also is like, you get that young Guts was able to see these things like pretty early, like before any crazy business went on. So that's a little interesting that he's attuned to that world, I guess. But yeah, there's not. It kind of reminded me of that kind of whimsical story of like way back when there was that little girl in the village and her friend became that like butterfly demon or whatever. It kind of had a similar, just like, here's a little fairy tale, here's a little storybook for you about this prison and this situation, and it's just kind of like not super integrated into everything, but it's just kind of a nice little tale. And to be fair to the larger story, they do start talking about, like, yeah, this is probably the end of the journey coming up. Like, he has a little conversation with, like, Skull Knight's essence or his notion of him or something when he's on the ship.
Yeah, the grim reminder that if you use that berserker armor too much, you're just gonna, like, lose your humanity, essentially. Like, you lose all, like, taste and feeling and all that shit. Like,
and that possibility that if you bring Casca back, maybe she won't want what you want or something like that. Like, there's that little reminder.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. But, yeah. And then, so yeah, that little story of the flower kind of concludes, and then we get back to, I guess, setting up the next wave of story, where Rickard and his sister are kind of riding in this cart. Like, it's basically, I just flipped the page and it was like, trolls! And I was like, oh wow, remember trolls?
Yeah.
We're back to trolls. And there's this wagon train, and he's got a, like, Van Helsing style machine gun crossbow or something.
It's got like a Gatling gun crossbow or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're working it too hard, man. Like, the bowstring's about to break, and then it snaps, and they're like, oh no, we're boned. But then his sister's like, wait, what about these? And she, like, dumps out a bunch of, like, sharp little pointy tire popping things.
Like spurs or something. Yeah.
Yeah, little sharp edged little bits she pours out on the road to slow them down just a little bit. But they're still in bad trouble because they're going to catch up any second now. They're so doomed. And then out of the forest, a hail of arrows comes down, and it's our guy Irvine or whatever, like the super, like, archer man from the band or whatever. And he at some point, there's so much. Oh yeah, cockatrice.
Yes,
giant rooster shows up.
Yep.
It appeared, and I was like, oh crap, I should know what this is called. Yeah. I should know this. And I couldn't find it, and then I turned the page, and it was just cockatrice. I was like, yeah, that's right. That's what it is.
Yep.
Big like snood on this thing. It's dangly business right under its neck. And it's just causing problems. You know, this thing's too big and too powerful for this group. So Irvine has to transform. He has to morph into his animorph form.
His weird,
which
like,
is so weird.
Inverted, like, centaur or something. Like, it's weird.
So weird, yeah. Inverted centaur, like, the man form is at the back of this thing, but it allows the antlers to be used as the giant bow, so it's kind of dope.
It's pretty dope. It's like a giant ballista animal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 heads, you know, because it's Mira. It's just weird. And yeah, he shoots this thing, totally smokes it. Its head kind of pops open somehow from this arrow shot. Its eyes bug out.
Mira loves drawing eyes bugging out, so
popping out. That's what they're for. We already got an eye stabbing earlier, but now we get this cockatrice business. But then a bunch of harpies are kind of descending on them. They look full on, like, you know, Dragon's Dogma harpies are just descending on the crew. And Rickard has been able to fix his bow, and he shoots at it. And then, like, Laban or whatever, like, this general kind of comes over and he's like, that was some good bowmanship, man. That was pretty dope. This is exact words. And then he's like, oh, yeah, and, you know, I used to be a member of the Hawk, and he has his badge. And it's like, what? Whoa, you're like a hero of the 100-Year War. That's so fresh. And then they fist bump and stuff, and it's great. But meanwhile, Rickard's kind of shaken a bit by what he's just seen, because he's like, what? Like, the Band of the Hawk has monsters in it? That's weird. Remember how cool Griffith used to be? And he's just kind of in a funk about it a little bit, thinking about how it used to be, you know?
Well, he was there at the grave of Swords, right? Where Guts and Griffith, like, met up again after the world had been reborn. Remember?
I think so. Yeah, they don't flash back to that. They flash back to him and Zod flying off and him kind of realizing Griffith's vibe is different, I guess.
Oh, okay. So I can't remember. Yeah. So he doesn't know that Griffith is like a sack of shit? And
he has a bad feeling, I guess. Like
Okay.
he feels like something's different about Griffith.
Makes
But
sense.
meanwhile, he's shown kind of all this splendor of like a Falconia as they're driving in this cart. It's just like, oh yeah, these are the wing stones. They keep us safe. Also, this is this tree that exists now, and I think it's that God Emperor guy they defeated has morphed into this thing, right? Because it still looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're talking like, oh yeah, the 100-Year War. Remember when people fought people instead of all these monsters everywhere? Those were the days, or whatever, as they're riding along. And yeah, there's these kind of crazy looking crystals coming out of the ground that kind of shield farms and stuff from the creatures or something. So yeah, Windham has been reborn as Falconia. And they're being taken, I guess, to head into town and potentially meet Griffith. So Rickart's gonna have some feelings to work through.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we end, pretty much, right?
It is. That is where we end. Is them coming up to the gate, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. This kind of felt like a transition book where it's like, all right, we're ending the Sea God thing. We have a little like palate cleanser story in here, another little bit of detail from Guts' past, and then heading into the next bit of business, like large scale business. And you get the big pastoral stuff of like farmers working their fields and, just pleasant medievalry. And yeah, so
this stuff. Did you play Elden Ring yet at all?
No.
Have you seen any of it?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Is there wing stones in it?
Well, I mean, not exactly that. Like, there's stuff like the giant tree thing, like that's blessing the land, or that's 100%. They stole all of that for Elden Ring.
That's
like
Erd tree business. Okay.
And I just realized that like the main city in Elden Ring is probably going to look like Falconia because it kind of already does. Like, so, yeah.
All right.
It's there. It's all there, which is great.
That's fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm brushing up on a bunch of old games and catching myself up in the world a bit with stuff. So, yeah, I haven't dipped into that well yet because I know it's deep. So, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think I liked the flower story the most of what we encountered here. It's a little different than what we've run into for a while. So even though it's kind of like, what? Like it felt a little out of sync or something. It just felt like kind of planting some seeds for some stuff. In a kind of warm and interesting way. So yeah,
Do you think they ever actually get to Elf Island? They must, right?
Yeah. Oh, they got to, right? Like, we still got several volumes left,
Yeah.
They're right on the like, what else could pop up in their way, right? They killed a sea god,
I mean, I'm sure we'll see.
They just needed to add a Murrow to the party, I think, is what that was. It was like a cool side quest.
Yeah, the DLC.
Yeah. They added that in the Integrate version. This is, Berserk Integrate. Is this little adventure, and then we'll get to the real stuff next time on Elf Island.
So it's been a while, obviously, because of where Casca has been mentally. I mean, it's been since the eclipse, when her mind broke. But
it's like 20 volumes or something.
It honestly,
it's been a long time.
It honestly doesn't even feel like she's a character to me anymore, which feels weird and kind of bad. Because we've spent more time with her being just like a vegetable going ooh to everything than like we have with her as a character. And that
as a cool warrior lady. Yeah.
That realization was sad because there like is a page in this volume where he's like laying in bed or whatever before the time skip or the whatever, his past thing.
The like, flashback, yeah.
And he's like remembering her like on her horse, and like there's the like eclipse moment that everybody knows or whatever, kind of like in a silhouette and stuff. Like there's a bunch of stuff there reminding you, Casca's like still really important to this character and like arguably the story in some way because of that, because she's a driving force, but she also hasn't really existed for way more than like half the series.
Oh man, and like in terms of when it was written, like 15 years or something of the character just being like this, it's
That's
rough.
a good point.
Yeah. I mean, there's been like other great female characters introduced, like Shirka and Farnese got more depth and stuff. But yeah,
Isma's great too already.
Weird. Yeah, Isma, good impression. Chich was pretty dope. Small role, but you know, best supporting actress, whoever played
Best
Chich.
cameo. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it is a little weird. It's a little unfortunate. Like I kept comparing it to the Twin Peaks thing with the way they handled Cooper in The Return. But that's like a season of a show. That's a year of waiting for your guy to be back. This is kind of getting excruciating, yeah. And this is just us reading it all at once in a period of a year or two or whatever. Like, yeah. I wish it was maybe a bit different.
If I was keeping up on it, I would have been 11, roughly, when like she broke. And I'm like on the verge of 38 now.
And as far as we know, she's still frozen in this situation. Yeah, it's
I guess
like borderline catatonic or whatever.
But that's now. This would have been 10 years ago. That's still pretty bad. That's still like you said, roughly 15, 16 years. So
of this, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad, but hope you know, maybe there'll be the greatest payoff, like Casca will come back and it'll be just like, wow, thank God, you know, this is amazing.
I think I still want her back. I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Or what if she's like, oh yeah, I remember all that stuff that we did, you know, during all of that, like when she's in this coma of sorts, you know.
What's better?
Or just a whole volume that's just what she's been experiencing, like inside herself.
Oh my God. I think that would be like almost unbearable to read because I bet it would be like trippy and just not make any sense.
Yeah, maybe. But I'd just like to digest that and try to figure it out. But if
do you want her to know?
I don't know.
Do you want it to be like when she comes to? Do you want there to be a panel of like, yeah, like where's Griffith or like some? Oh, that would be terrible. If the first thing she says is where's Griffith, holy shit, like, I'm gonna burn these books.
There was a horrible rape situation, don't you remember? But you don't say that. You don't do that. I would imagine. Just like, oh yeah, all that trauma. Don't you remember the trauma? It's like, no, don't do that. She might retreat again.
But like part of you hopes that she remembers it, right? So she's not like, because remember she was a little swoony and she felt sorry for Griffith by the end of like what happened before he became Femto. They like
after the year of him being beaten to crap or whatever, yeah.
And she felt bad for him and stuff. So like you don't want her to like go back to, no, Griffith is great. Like, what do you mean? He's your friend. It's like, don't you know what happened?
I think that, yeah, that's sort of the fear Guts has, right? Is if their goals aren't in sync after, you know, like it's just be like, oh, I have to go kill that guy after what he did. And it's just like, what?
Oh,
no.
What if she wants to, what if she wants to get back with Griffith? What if she's just
That'd be pretty rough on, I mean, they had a pretty intimate encounter though, Guts and her, before it all happened, you know? So hopefully that's where her heart lies. But
I mean, they were totally in love for sure.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah.
What if she comes back and she's like, Guts, I love you, but Griffith got that bad dick. Just like something completely fucked
femto
up. You can just get dicked down by a demon.
That would be terrible. Like I would hope Mira's got better sense than that. Or else like, no, there's like a point in Berserk where everyone went, oh, that's too bad. And stopped caring about it. So if that hasn't happened, so I imagine it didn't trip that badly. But yeah, I guess we'll find out. There's only a few left, so
I think by osmosis, just in existing on the internet, I would have heard like, oh no, Mira's like a giant rape apologist or whatever. Like I would have heard some.
It's like, oh, it's just this horrible direction to take.
Totally.
Like, oh no. So
Yeah.
I don't think that will happen. Yeah.
It would be kind of funny if she said
these are the
something
fears.
along
That's
the
what
lines of
the
that.
Yeah. That's what the Berserker armor's odd would have you believe, because it's so mean. It's so mean-spirited.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean,
Anyway.
I sometimes feel like I'm wearing the Berserker's armor's odd, only without any of the upside in my day-to-day life.
None of the power.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's like a moment where Guts is just like, feel the pain, and has to like rev up or whatever to get it. Yeah, that's our guy. He's so aggro, but that's
Has
his
he
power,
gone
man.
has he gone berserk in a while? Like really berserk? Not this last DLC, I would say. Not really.
That's the thing. I think they've figured out a way to kind of keep him in check a little bit, like Shirka's efforts to, like, there was fears of that when he was fighting the Sea Horde or whatever. It's like, oh, this could go bad, but then they were able to meet with him and figure that out or whatever. And that little elf kid, I think, helped talk him down one time too.
That's true.
In the spirit realm or whatever. So that's as close as it's gotten, but it hasn't felt like, oh man, that almost went real bad. You know, it's been a little dialed back. So
do you think he can take on Femto/Griffith?
It might be that kind of thing where that would cause him to lose his humanity if he's going to have to step to that level. Like, he'll probably have to Skull Knight it up all the way, or let it take over all the way, and hope that he doesn't kill anybody he cares about. Like, I think that would be the final transaction for him.
In which case he just kind of becomes an apostle for his own thing, right? Like, instead of for the God Hand, he becomes an apostle for like his own misery, essentially.
You'd hope he'd have the wherewithal of like a Skull Knight to keep it together a little bit, but yeah, it's hard to say. He is so mad, so he might have to lose it completely in the last bit if that comes out or whatever. What's the story with like Mura's friend at the hospital was told what went down and they're going to publish it? Like, has that come out yet? Is the final thing out?
No, because I think 41 only came out last year, right? Was it last year? It was last November or something.
Okay. So we're still before the end of the tale as we know it. I guess I was at least happy that there was talk of the end in this. Like, it's not like Mira just kind of kept charting out a path way beyond him. You know, it's just like, oh no, I'm going to keep writing this until I'm 97 or something, and it won't ever resolve. It's like there's talk of the journey's end in this volume. So, you know, that's encouraging, I guess.
I'm trying to see
end point in sight.
I'm trying to see when Mira learned he had cancer, if that like is even available.
Would have affected his chart of how he was doing stuff. Yeah. Be like, I better wrap it up.
This is just hearsay, but on r/Berserk on Reddit, 9 years ago in 2014, somebody made a post saying state of Mira's health. I heard Mira isn't doing so hot biologically. Is that why Berserk is getting so delayed? Blah, blah, blah. And then a bunch of people are saying, no, this is bullshit or whatever. Maybe that's when he started knowing. So, like, maybe we'll actually see him in writing.
And that would have been shortly after this publication. So maybe he knew already and is like, hey, I gotta start narrowing this back down to an end of some kind. So maybe, but that's heavy. But
obviously, I'm gonna. Oh wait, he has corneritis. Oh, he's writing himself in a corner. What a piece of shit! You should feel bad for that Zed Crash. For now that you know, it's like no, he actually has terminal cancer, asshole.
It's like, oh, he painted himself a corner. And he's gonna, that's terrible. It's like George R. R. Martin or something.
Actually, there's a comment here that says George R. R. Martin addressed this issue as well, but the link is dead to whatever that was.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's a volume for us. Do we have any emails this week, or what's the?
We do not.
What's the situation? Okay.
No emails.
But if
this
somebody
week.
wanted to send in a message,
They could.
it's ihavegoneberserk@gmail.com.
It is ihavegoneberserk@gmail.com.
That's right. That's right. How did you play that video game from like 6 years ago?
No.
Is it like a Dynasty Warriors like situation?
To be honest with you, I was kind of hoping at some point we would do an episode on the different other stuff for Berserk. So I've been just waiting because, I don't want to.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't want to
just saw it
accidentally
was on your
ruin
Steam.
something either.
Sure. I think it's just Golden Arc stuff, though. I'm pretty sure.
No, there's some. Apparently, from what I've seen, the horse thing with Farnese is in here. Like, there's other stuff in there.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think up to 2016.
That came out. Yeah, that game
2016.
came out in 2016, 2017 area.
Yeah.
So that would potentially spoil some things we have yet to reach publication wise. So okay, yeah, I guess.
And also,
hold off on that.
we just might not know. Like, I didn't know Isma existed until like a few volumes ago, and like.
Right. So there might just be like a character select screen that like spoils some stuff or something. Or just names the elf kid, and it's like, what?
Yeah, totally.
I didn't want to know that.
Yeah, so it's better to wait.
I guess so. Yeah.
Like, I won't.
Okay.
I won't promise anything, but I would like to definitely maybe do an episode on like the other Berserk
The supplementals
media at some point later.
The Dreamcast game. Yeah.
The Dreamcast game.
Okay.
Maybe rewatch the anime. Because it would be kind of nice to maybe revisit the golden age after all of this bullshit when it was a little simpler back then.
Sure.
Might be
Remember when
interesting.
humans fought humans? That was so quaint.
I love that
anyway.
they actually talk about that in this.
Yeah. But okay, thanks for listening to the episode. Thanks for going berserk with us. Sorry it's been another gap here, but we don't have many volumes left, so trying to savor them.
True.
But yeah. All right.
Keep on berserking.
Sailing on the good ship Berserk. We're on a ship still. We're still heading to Elfheim, so
We are.
Hopefully we make it there next week.
Yeah. Tune in then.